Resourceful Designer, episode 202, SWOT Analysis for Designers.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He won't wear flip-flops because he hates things between his toes. Mark Descote.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this week's episode, I'm going to share a way to narrow down your strategy when taking on design projects. I'm also going to share a tip of the week for overcoming roadblocks in your work, and finally finish the episode with a question from Kat on how to figure out what your competition is charging. Well, what have I been up to this past week? Well, I've gotten quite a few new projects on the go. I've met with a few people for podcast cover arts. That website I told you I'd made, podcastbranding.co, is working out really well, getting a few orders every week now, which are fun. Most of them are pretty quick jobs. They only take an hour or two, sometimes 3 to complete, but they're always fun to work on. I've also got a few website projects I'm still working on, including the one for myself. I haven't had a chance. I got a little busy and I haven't had a chance to finish it. But I also did start working on my presentation. In case you're unaware, in March, I will be in Orlando, Florida for a podcast conference, and I'm giving a talk on podcast cover arts and the best ways to design it and all that stuff. So I started laying out the foundation for my presentation, just kind of a wireframe, if you will, of all the talking points I want to cover. And now I have to start fleshing that out. So those are just a few of the things that I've been up to this week. Now I want to just take a quick moment to give a shout out to Lisa, the newest member of the Resourceful Designer community. She was looking for some people to bounce ideas off of and help develop strategy when it comes to branding sessions and that sort of stuff. So she decided to give the community a try, and so far she's been participating, and I think she's enjoying it. I know the rest of us in the community are. And it's such a great place to share that sort of feedback or ask for that advice, because once you know people, you trust their advice that much more. I always found in a group like the Resourceful Designer Facebook group, or any other Facebook group for that matter, whenever you share something and you get dozens, if not hundreds of replies and critiques and opinions, it's really hard to figure out what's good, what's bad, who to listen to, who not to listen to, because most of the time you don't know those people. And that's the great thing about the Resourceful Designer community, is because we're constantly communicating every day, we're talking with each other, we're getting to know each other, to trust each other. And when we do ask for somebody's opinion, you know that the information you're getting is valuable and worth listening to. So I know many of the designers in the community have really cherished their ability to share and to ask for advice. And if you're a designer and you are seeking that sort of group, people that you can ask for advice, to bounce ideas off, get opinions from, then why not check out the Resourceful Designer community? You can join by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/community. And now this week's tip of the week. And this week's tip is join groups and ask questions. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you've heard it time and again. As designers, we're problem solvers. And that doesn't just apply to a design. It also applies to all the processes we use while creating those designs. And sometimes if you can't figure something out, as designers, we tend to want to tinker with it, play around until we can find a solution. Now, while doing this is a great way to learn, and when you do find a solution, it's very rewarding, a lot of the times it can be a big waste of time. Let me give you an example, something that happened to me earlier this week. It was brought to my attention that the pricing table on the Resourceful Designer community page that shows the 3 different membership levels I offer, and what each level membership receives, that it wasn't displaying correctly. The 3 different pricing tiers were all displaying the exact same benefits, making it look like it didn't matter which level you chose, you got the same things. Now, what it was supposed to look like is the lowest price tier would show you the couple of benefits that you get, and then the other ones that were not available at that level were grayed out. But that's not the way it was displaying. Everything was displayed as just regular black text, so it was really confusing to people visiting the site. Now, I don't know when this happened. Somebody brought it to my attention, so I went to have a look, and I spent well over an hour and a half, probably closer to 2 hours, trying to figure it out. I just didn't know why it wasn't displaying properly. I had built the pricing table using Divi, like I do with all my websites. And as far as I could tell, everything was set out properly. And the crazy thing is, if I went into WordPress, the back end on that page, and I click the preview changes page so that it would open up a page showing the changes, on that page, everything looked okay. It looked the way it was supposed to. But when I published the page, it didn't. So in my mind, I was thinking there's a conflict, something happening here. So I started troubleshooting. I started turning off plugins to see if that was the issue, going through my whole list, turning plugins off, turning them back on, and nothing. And after close to 2 hours without a solution, I finally threw my hands up. I decided to seek help. So I took a screenshot of the preview page with what the pricing chart was supposed to look like, as well as the published page, and I posted them in a Divi Facebook group that I belong to. And within 2 minutes, somebody replied and says, "Oh, it looks like you're using a soft return instead of a hard return between your line items." And sure enough, I went to the back page where my items were all listed, deleted all the returns between each item, and just added a new return, and the problem was fixed. So I wasted 2 hours of my time that I could have used for other things if only I had asked for help at the beginning. Now, I was lucky that somebody replied so quickly and I was able to fix the problem, and that isn't always the case. But when you're faced with a situation and you don't know, you might as well ask. I could have put that in the group, asked the question, and then tried to start troubleshooting on my own while I was waiting for an answer, and that could have saved me a lot of time. So yes, finding the solution on your own can be very rewarding, but sometimes it's more beneficial for you to seek help in order to find the solution quicker so that you can get back to work. So that's this week's tip. Join groups of like-minded people, support groups, forums, anything to do with whatever you're working with. And when you have a question, don't be afraid to ask. And now, SWOT analysis for designers. So what exactly is a SWOT analysis? Well, first of all, SWOT is spelled SWOT. Now, if you've ever had to create a business plan, you're familiar with this term. SWOT is actually a process that was developed at Harvard Business School in the early 1950s. Now, the process involves using 4 different areas. For example, you can use 4 different pads of paper, 4 different whiteboards, or you can just take a single sheet or a single whatever and divide it into 4 sections. One of the most popular is taking a sheet or a board and drawing a horizontal and vertical line, so a big plus symbol across the whole thing. So you end up with 4 corners of the pad, 4 sections to your pad or your sheet or whatever. Now, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The first 2, strengths and weaknesses, being internal matters, meaning things that you can actually control, and the second 2, opportunities and threats, being external matters, things that affect a business but are out of your control. And as I said, SWOT analysis is mostly used or most popular when it comes to writing a business plan for a business. So let's take, for example, a web design business. If you were writing a business plan to start your very own web design business, maybe the 4 sections would look something like this. Strengths. What are the strengths of the business? What advantages do you have? What do you do well? What resources do you have? What do other people think of you? So for a web design business, maybe you could say something like, I'm fast and proficient at creating websites. I have the ability to use many different design applications. I'm very experienced in WordPress. I know some of the coding languages. I'm great at time management. And I have a good connection with writers, photographers, coders, etc. Now, what about weaknesses? What disadvantages does the business have? What improvements can you make to your business and to yourself? What skills don't you have, or you do have, but you aren't very good at? Are there any parts of web design that you should be avoiding? And what objections might clients have with your business and your services? So again, for a web designer, maybe it might say something like, great at web design, but has no development skills. That's a weakness. Maybe really good at the design side, but not very good at the business side, the administrative, the bookkeeping side of things. That's a weakness. Maybe, as a lot of designers are, you're an introvert. Well, that can be viewed as a weakness when it comes to business. Or possibly, English is your second language. Maybe you're dealing with a mostly English community or English client base, but English is not your first language. Well, there could be a weakness involved there in trying to communicate. Now, what about opportunities? What options are there for the business to grow? Are there any new technologies emerging that you can take advantage of? Is there a shift happening in the economy? Are social patterns changing? So for a web design business, you may be able to say, well, where I live, there's very few talented web designers in the area. So that's a good opportunity for my business. Maybe a knowledge of certain fields or industries can allow the business to niche. So for example, maybe a web designer who's into, let's say mountain biking, loves mountain biking as a hobby. Well, he or she can use that knowledge to maybe niche down into the mountain biking space. So creating websites for mountain bike enthusiasts. That's a great opportunity. Now, what about threats? What risks or potential hurdles does a business face? What obstacles do you face as a designer? What's your competition doing? Will new technologies threaten your business? So again, for a web design business, got to watch out for things like DIY website builders that can potentially lure clients away from you. There's the fact that more and more people are learning web design these days, either graduating from school or learning on their own, and they could become competitors and compete with you. Now, of course, this is a very, very simplified SWOT analysis of a web design business. If you were doing this for your own business, I would expect you to have many more items listed under each section. But I wanted to just go over that quickly to give you an idea of what a SWOT analysis is. Then, once you've identified your 4 sections, you can then look at them and form a strategy for your business going forward in order for it to succeed. And who knows, your SWOT analysis may inspire you to create a strategic direction that you might not have considered beforehand. And that's the power of performing one. But a SWOT analysis isn't just for a business plan. Yes, it is the most common place to use one, but a SWOT analysis can be applied to anything: products, services, design strategies, and so much more. So as a designer, you can use a SWOT analysis for things such as determining if a client is right for you. A new client approaches you, think, what are the strengths with working this client? Weaknesses with working with this client? What opportunities or threats are there? And once you view all of that, it'll help you determine if this client's right for you. The same can apply to a design project. Whether it's a logo design, a poster, a website, social media campaign, anything. While designing a poster, what are the strengths that you can help tackle with this poster? What weaknesses can you overcome? What opportunities are there to take advantage of with the poster? And what threats are there that you might face? SWOT analysis is the perfect thing to use during a strategy session with a client. When you're meeting with a new client, perfect time. It's also very useful when vetting candidates that you want to hire as a contractor. If you're looking for somebody to fill a position within your business, you want to get somebody to help you out with design or development or illustration or whatever, do a SWOT analysis to figure out their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and see if they're the right candidate for the job. Now, I want to look a little bit further on how a SWOT analysis can help you with a strategy session when it comes to working with a client. Like say, for example, your branding. So imagine a new startup company approaches you and they want help with their branding. They're starting, whatever their product is. They're going to be selling a product. And they come to you and they want you from the ground up to develop their whole brand, logo, their whole look and feel, all their marketing material and all of that. As you know, the first step you have to do is have a discovery meeting with the client because you need to ask a lot of questions before you can start any of that because you need to get to know the client. Now, if you're not sure what questions you should be asking, I did have an episode 15 of the podcast, which you can get at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 15. That one had 50 questions to ask before every new design project. And just a fun note here, that is the most downloaded episode of the podcast and the most landed on page on my website. Every week I get Google Analytics tells me what pages are the most popular. Without fail, for the past couple of years, the number one page every week has been that page, 50 questions to ask before every new design project. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. But as you're asking your questions to your client, you need to think of them in the terms of SWOT. So as you're asking questions, divide them up. what questions fall into the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. So for strengths, what are the advantages of the new company's product or service to their customers? What are the advantages this new company has over its competition? What makes this new company unique? These are all questions you should normally ask. Will you put them in the strength category? Weaknesses. What areas of the new business could be improved upon? Yes, they're a new business, but even a new business has areas that they can pinpoint that they need to improve upon. What issues does the new business need to avoid? And what limits does the new business face in providing their product or their service? Maybe they don't have enough staff on hand, or they can only produce a certain number of products per day. That may be considered a weakness. Now let's look at opportunities. What opportunities are there for this product or service? Are there peaks and trends the new business can take advantage of? Can the business's strengths be turned into opportunities? And are there any changes in the industry that this business is in that could lead to other opportunities? And of course, there's threats. Who are the existing or potential competitors to this new business? Are there any factors that could put this company at risk? Are there any potential threats to the product or service itself? And is there a possible shift in consumer behavior that could affect the product or service? Once you ask these and many, many more questions, of course, there are hundreds of questions you can ask to divide things up into the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats sections. But once you have this information and you divide it into the 4 categories, it then becomes much easier to figure out a strategy or a direction for you to take when it comes to designing for this client. Obviously, you want to build upon their strengths when you're thinking of design. You want to do something that addresses the weaknesses. You want to seek out and explore opportunities. And you want to monitor and do something to defend against the threats. So you see the value in doing a SWOT analysis. Now, as a designer, you want to add value to your services. And a SWOT analysis allows you to dig deeper and uncover opportunities while working with your clients that can lead to more projects with them and projects of greater value. Because with the information you gather, you'll be able to highlight your client's needs and create an effective design campaign that takes those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats into mind, and your clients will appreciate it. Now, maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, this all sounds good, Mark, but that's a lot of work, and all my client wants is a website. I don't need to know any of this stuff. Well, you'd be really wrong in thinking that way, and here's why. Clients often know what they want, but it's your job as a designer to supply them with what they need. And a SWOT analysis can help you determine what it is they need. Performing a SWOT analysis can help you find areas to focus on in order to produce better design results. And when doing this, by getting to know your clients better as you go through this procedure, you build a relationship with them, which will allow you to make recommendations that they'll listen to. They'll appreciate you more because of the focus and the interest you're taking, and they will take you much more seriously. And clients will not only see this as a useful tool to use in your designs, your creative process, but they'll use it as an internal thing beyond. They'll be able to take this and implement different strategies throughout their business, and that is extremely valuable to them. Because keep in mind, even though they may have done a SWOT analysis in their business plan, they did not do it from a creative point of view like you are doing it. So if you bring it up to a client and they say, oh, well, we already have one of those, you can look at it, but then you need to ask your own questions and form your own answers for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and tackle it from a creative point of view, which is something I almost guarantee your client has not done. And lastly, it does give you a foundation to stand on should your client not follow your advice. They say, no, that's not what I want something else, and it doesn't work out. Then you can go back, and I know it's not really the thing to do, but it gives you the opportunity to quote unquote say, I told you so, and show the client that you had done the analysis, it pointed you in a certain direction, and the client said no, and whatever they chose didn't work out. So then the client could think back and go, yeah, they were really right. I should have gone with them, and you become much more valuable in their mind. So no matter how big or how small or whatever the project is, you should perform a SWOT analysis to help you with your design decisions. And as you can see, something like this works much better when you get the client involved, especially the higher ups, the owners, the CEOs, the sales managers, the people that really make a difference and can appreciate this. When you get them involved, this really works out well. But even if you can't get your client involved, do this on your own, and you'll appreciate the help it offers you, even if it's just from your own point of view. Now, another thing you can do with a SWOT analysis, and this is for your own business, and it's really fun to do, is to do a SWOT analysis on your own competition. By this point, I hope you've already done one on yourself. If not, that's probably going to be the first thing you're going to do is perform one for yourself. And that will help you position your business and what you do. But when you do one on your competition, it can help you even further as you learn new ways to improve your own business. So you run a SWOT analysis on your competition, and if you have more than one that you've identified, run one on each one. And then you try to figure out, can you match your competition's strengths or surpass them? Can you offer a service that makes up for the weakness of your competition? If they have a certain weakness, maybe they don't provide web hosting. Well, you can offer web hosting, and that solves one of their weaknesses, and it becomes a strength for you. Can you snatch away their opportunities? Whatever opportunities they have, is that something you can go after and snatch away from them? And finally, can you do a better job at fending off whatever threatens them? Because chances are, other than you are a threat to them, but whatever threats they have besides you, can you do a better job at fending them off than your client can? So in conclusion, I hope that you see why a SWOT analysis can be very relevant to everything you do, including your own business and every design project you take on, no matter how small or how large. It helps you develop new strategies for your designs to tackle. It increases your value, allowing you to charge more for your services. And it saves you time on future projects with the same client, because chances are the SWOT analysis won't change very much. So when it comes to future projects, you've already done your homework on it, and you'll be able to create better designs. Now, to run a proper SWOT analysis could take anywhere from 1 to several hours. It all depends, and it should be performed with multiple people whenever possible. This is a great thing to do in committee. Now, I don't like doing design and all that stuff, but doing a SWOT analysis, the more people, the better, because you can get multiple opinions and then figure out what the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. And the more people you have involved, the more answers that you will get that'll help you down the road. And when you do this, and then you go back, because this is all done during the discovery phase, when you go back afterwards and you present your proposal and you lay out the SWOT analysis that you did, showing all these things to the client, they will be so impressed. It'll increase their opinion of you, and it'll justify the higher rates that you charge. They'll look at it and say, well, that other designer just wanted to meet and talk and do stuff, but look at what this designer is doing. They're providing me with this value information. It looks like they're really taking things seriously. It just makes you look that much more professional. And when you look that much more professional in your client's eyes, you can charge them a much higher rate for the services you offer. So let me ask you, have you ever performed a SWOT analysis, either on your own business, your competition, or for a design project? Let me know by leaving a comment for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 202. And now, this week's question of the week. That's right, I have a question this week. Now, before I get to Kat's question, I just want to let you know that if you have a question you would like me to answer on a future episode of the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback to submit your question. Now, Kat asked, she was listening to the episode about raising prices, and she wondered, how do you get local price comparisons? I was just doing a local competition survey, and only one person listed anything pricing related on their website. Well, thanks for the question, Kat. And yeah, that's one of the things when I mentioned how check your competition and see whether you're charging equal or below them, then you should be charging higher. or you should raise your prices if your competition is charging much higher than you are. You should be raising your prices. But how do you know what your competition is charging? Actually, the best way to do this is simply to ask them. In most cases, I always recommend you get to know your fellow designers. Now, of course, this is talking locally. I'm not talking about across the globe or that. I'm just talking local designers in your area. I know, or I say I know, I used to know. In all honesty, I've been out of the loop and I've realized that there is a few designers in the area now that I'm not aware of. I don't know who they are. But in the past, I knew every designer in the area and we often talked. And it was no big deal to share, to just ask, what are you charging per hour right now? Or what are you charging for a website? Or what are you charging for this? And we would all share because we knew there was enough business to go around. So I had no problem asking my competition what they were charging. And I had no problem sharing my rates if they asked me. So that's the easiest thing to do. Now, the other option is to look at that. There's some guides that go out there. I know that in Canada, the RGD offers a yearly salary survey, which you can get that'll kind of give you an idea of what people are charging. Now, that's not direct competition, individual people, but it'll give you an idea like this city, this is the average price, or that area, or different areas across the country, how much they're charging for different services. And I believe in the US, there's the Graphic Designers Guild has something similar to that. I'm not sure if the AIGA does or not. And I don't know about overseas outside of North America, what options there are. But you can always look to see if there's an organization that keeps track of that sort of thing and just find out for your area or near you what sort of prices. So in my case, I know that I live just outside Cornwall, Ontario, but I'm an hour away from Ottawa and I'm an hour away from Montreal. So Cornwall is too small to be included, but I can definitely look up the prices or the average prices for Montreal and Ottawa in the RGD booklet and find out what sort of rates they have. And finally, if you can't ask your competition and there's no guide to tell you, there's another method that I've actually used, and some people might not think too kindly of this method, and that's actually calling up the competition and pretending to be a client. Now, I haven't done this myself, but I did when I started my business. I had a friend of mine call up the other designers in the area and just ask them a couple of questions to try to get an idea what their rates were. Now, of course, these were the designers I wasn't already friends or acquaintances with that I couldn't ask on my own. But what my friend did is he told them that he was starting a new business and he was doing his business and his financial plan. And for the financial plan, he had to put down different things. So logo design and business cards and brochures and website and all that stuff. He had to put down prices for that stuff in order to present to the bank. So it was kind of, he told them he just needed ballpark figures to get an idea, that he wasn't actually ready to sit down and discuss any actual projects with them. He was just trying to get that because he needed to put it down on the financial plan. So he would ask, like, what's the average price of a logo? What's the average price of a website? How much do you charge by hour and that for design services? And the people he called gladly gave him that information. Now, I know some people might think that's a little underhanded, but this is business and you do call them competition for a reason. So anything you can do to get a heads up on them, if you're willing, give it a shot. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to actually sit down and get them to give you a full price quote, but just calling them up and asking for a ballpark figure, I don't see the harm in that. So those are the methods that I would use to find out what my local competition is doing pricing-wise. I would ask them, if I know them, reach out and ask them and say, listen, I'm just trying to figure out where I stand. What are you charging for these? And if they want, they'll share. If they don't want to share, they won't. Then you can check pricing guides, see if there's some sort of organization or group or guild or something that does do these pricing surveys that might be able to give you an idea for local areas. And lastly, just call them up and pretend you're a client, or have a friend or somebody call up a competition and pretend they're a client and get some prices for you. So those are the methods that I would use. So I hope that answers your question, Kat. Thank you so much for sending that in. Now, once again, if you have a question you'd like me to answer on a future episode of the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and submit yours. So that's it for today's episode. I want to remind you one more time about the Resourceful Designer community. If you're looking for a group of like-minded designers who are looking to grow their business and want to help others do the same, then the community is for you. Visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community to join. And don't forget this week's tip of the week to just simply join groups and ask questions. And I'm not talking about the community in this case. This could be as simple as joining a Facebook group for a product you use, and if you have a problem, instead of sitting there for an hour or two trying to troubleshoot it on your own, join the group and ask. Oftentimes, you can get an answer much faster than you trying to figure out on your own. So thank you very much for tuning in. I look forward to discussing more topics with you next week. Until then, I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best for your graphic design business and reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.